Okay, hello everybody. Happy Sunday. First, let's give a round of applause for Pomona Cider Company for hosting us. Thank you, Pomona. Make sure you are getting drinks, food. Tip your bartenders well. Show them some love because they have been showing us so much love. I am Bridget Wheeler, and I am the Artist Services Manager with Milwaukee Film. And I'm really excited to be here with these three filmmakers to have this conversation specifically. We're going to be talking about all things film festival strategy. Okay, maybe not all things, because it's a very, very, very big conversation. And it covers a lot of area. And my whole kind of vision coming into putting this panel together was have three very distinct journeys on the film festival circuit with three very distinct films that are all very different from one another in order to at least capture as much as we can these three experiences in hopes that we can pass on some really valuable learnings as for those of you who are about to enter the film festival circuit or now just starting to think about that in, yes, pre-production. With that said, let's first meet our first panelist, Kurt.
Hey guys, my name is Kurt Ravenwood. I'm a producer, director sometimes, mostly producer that lives here in Milwaukee. My project is called Hundreds of Beavers. It is a silent black and white supernatural epic comedy about a man versus hundreds of beavers. And that's the whole pitch.
And so while we're doing these introductions, so we can kind of get the audience kind of grounded where you are currently, and then we'll backward engineer this conversation. What festival did you premiere at? What festivals have you played, and what are you scheduled to play?
So we premiered at Fantastic Fest in Austin, which is a kind of a big genre festival for like midnight movies and gonzo movies and just weird filmmaking. Then we went to Mexico City, to Morbido, where we won the festival there. And then from there, I think it's been in about, I think we're at up to 30-ish, about 30 film festivals. So for instance, tomorrow I fly to Atlanta Film Festival. We'll be there screening, and then I fly back here for our screening. So it's been a lot of fun. Our lead actor's in Fantaspoa in Brazil right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't know much about genre filmmaking before I made this movie, and every festival that is about genre filmmaking is called Fanta something. So it's Fantastic Fest in Austin, Fantaspoa in Brazil, Fantasia in Montreal is a big one. Yeah. So we're just doing that. Anything that F-A-N-T-A, anything that starts with that. The Fanta Festival, I don't know. We'll be there.
There you can catch hundreds of beavers. And just real quick, what was the date of your premiere?
Oh my God, I have no idea. September last year at some point.
Okay, great.
September of last year.
Excellent. Thank you, Kurt.
What's up, everyone? My name is Marquise Mays. I am the director. I am a director, an editor. My film is a short documentary called Black Strings. Black Strings follows a group of Black and Latinx string musicians who are all based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who during the summers in Milwaukee, they go to active crime scenes and they perform a meditation on grief at the crime scene itself. So yeah, we're short. So shorts are very different when thinking about festivals. So for example, we are just now starting our festival circuit. I am exhausted, but it is a lot of fun. We had our world premiere at the Hayti Heritage Film Festival, which is based in Durham, North Carolina. So it's a very spiritual, Black film festival. So it's really cool because we got to screen it in a church. So it kind of felt very spiritual. It felt very intimate. So that was really cool. But since then, we've shown at the Cleveland International Film Festival, where we won an audience award. And then we are screening here. We screened last night, which I'm super excited about. It was the city showed out for us. And then we'll be in Atlanta as well. So I leave on Tuesday. Again, I'm exhausted.
I love how I just moved here from Atlanta and you guys are already leaving me for
Everybody's
Atlanta.
Just going
you better
to Atlanta,
come back.
yeah. So we're showing at Atlanta, and it's really exciting because the short is a part of the documentary shorts competition. So I'm really excited about that. We'll be at Doc 10 in Chicago, where we'll be showing at the Gene Siskel. So I'm a film nerd, so I love theaters, and I'm just oh my gosh, I get to show at the Gene Siskel. That's cool. And then after that, what else are we doing? There's a lot I can't say, but it's exciting.
Yes, some of this, just so everyone is aware, it all stays in this room, okay?
Yes. So yeah. Oh, we also have shown at the Minnesota St. Paul International Film Festival as well. So yeah.
And you just started this journey. What was the date of your first screening?
Oh, our first screening was oh my gosh, it literally just happened. March 6th of this year. So yeah, I haven't slept right since.
For those keeping track at home, March 6th. It's now April 23rd, and Marquise is already tired. So this can be a very exhausting work.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lagueria Davis. I'm a writer-director, and I'm here with the feature documentary called Black Barbie, a documentary. And it's about the very first Black Barbie. My aunt worked for Mattel for 45 years and was like, why not make a Barbie that looks like me? And I was like, why don't I make a movie about that? And so we just started our festival circuit as well. We premiered at South by Southwest in March. And that was wild. I'm still tired, yes, yes. We had like 3 screenings and got a buzz screening. And then we went from there to Cleveland, where I met Marquise, and we had 2 great screenings there. And then we went to Denver, and now we're here. And then on Tuesday, I leave for Toronto to go to Hot Docs. We're there, and then June brings the San Francisco Doc Fest and Dead Center and ABFF. They all just announced, so I can say those. And then we got some more great film festivals coming up. Hopefully, yeah, fun stuff.
Yay. Well, thank you. So as you can see, we've got a wide variety of experience and reality coming up for the film, and some things we can talk about, some things we can't. So to kind of let's rewind and go back to the beginning, right? When you were first starting out on this project, what was your intent at that time going into pre-production? When you're like, this is the idea, this is the story, why?
Okay. Just to finish the film, I think I've been kind of taking it step by step. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's almost finished. This was December of 2022. It's almost finished. We need to find a premiere film festival, go. Who's it gonna be? And then have just been taking it step by step ever since then and seeing what lands in our orbit as we continue to get press and do film festivals. Yes, step by step.
And was it your intent at the beginning to be like, you know what, film festival, right out the gate, that's the path we're gonna go?
I'm very ambitious, and I have high dreams, so I want all the lovely things for the film. I want to do the film festivals. I want to do theatrical. I want to do streaming. I want to, see what comes. No limitations.
I love that.
I think similar to my friend here, I just wanted to finish it. So I was in a unique position because I had aspirations to start my project off as a feature film. And I was being pretty hard-headed when people would say, you should just make a short first and see what happens. And I'm like, no, I'm going to make a feature. And then I was connected to an organization called Firelight Media. And if you are not familiar with Firelight Media, they are a premier documentary production company led by the incomparable Oscar-nominated Stanley Nelson. So he and his company put out a grant. And they're just like, oh, we're looking, and this is very new, right? Like they put out a grant that said we are looking for Midwestern stories, and I'm just like, oh, I'm in the Midwest, and then they're just like, we're looking for Midwestern stories that are told from people of color. I said, oh, I'm that as well. So why not apply? And then I was telling my team, I'm just like, well, it's a short film. They want a short film, and I want to do a feature. And my team was just like, don't be stupid. We need money. So I was like, you're right. So I'm in a unique position because I had this company, this premier documentary production company, kind of shepherd my film for a year and work with me. And I knew about film festival strategy prior because I had a short that I was like doing a virtual festival run for because of COVID. But this one was a little bit more intense because they really sat me down and talked about like, okay, where could the film be, and what does it mean, and what does it feel like? So we just wanted to finish it first, but then I think Firelight was very great in helping us like really understand that like just don't apply to festivals to apply to festivals. You need to be very intentional, especially about festivals that like have competitions and premiere dates and stuff. Like it was so crazy. Like even sitting down, I had to even like withdraw from some festivals, like based on like premiere status, which I didn't understand, and it broke my heart to do. But they were just like, no, you're not gonna mess up our plan. And I'm like, okay, you're right, you know. So yeah.
And so everyone knows like the premiere status with some festivals, just to kind of give further context to this, there are film festivals out there. Milwaukee Film is not one of them, that has a priority for the premiere status of your film, meaning it must premiere at that festival in order to be accepted into the festival. It must have its premiere there.
Yeah.
And that sounds really lovely. And I think it's two-sided.
It's stressful because like, and I could be candid because I don't care, but like it was like we were invited to show at Minnesota Film Festival, but then I didn't know that there was like a Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival. And I think what it came down to was which festival would really bring the film an audience. And I think it really sucks because shorter film festivals, like smaller film festivals, get the brunt end of the stick because of the fact that they don't have funding or the expansiveness of other larger festivals, especially when it's in the same state, that sometimes it sucks because sometimes those smaller festivals give you way more intimate like conversations and more intimate opportunities. But so like having to withdraw from specific places in the same state based on things is really wild. So that's something.
And so when you first started out then with your film, where you're like, I am making this film to go on the festival strategy, I'm getting my words confused, on the festival circuit, excuse me. Yeah. Is that kind of what you thought in your mind at the, like before any pre-production started? Yeah. Well, I guess maybe the early stages of pre-production. Yeah. Was that in your mind?
Yeah, it's two things. I think one, Firelight had a goal. So Firelight not only commissioned my film, but they commissioned 7 other films based in the Midwest. So Firelight as a company was saying, we are going to go on a festival circuit for this program. So like we're going to go to festivals and say, we have a program of shorts that you can do. While on another hand, they were encouraging me to say, you yourself, Marquise in Black Strings, you can also go out and apply to places and do what you want to do that's not with this program. So we had 2 goals. Like, so they were interested in bigger festivals that can show the entire program, while I've been interested in just more festivals where we can have intimate conversations. So it kind of worked out twofold because we're able to do both.
Great.
That's really smart. Like bundling shorts into that makes so much sense.
As a programmer,
I've never heard of that before.
I'm a programmer, so like it blew my mind. I'm just like, can someone come to me with a block of shorts that
shorts blocks are so wonderful. Yeah.
That's I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm learning so much at this panel. That's amazing. So what was the question?
So that's really kind of where the film, like going on the film festival circuit, where did was that your intent at the beginning of making this film? What was your intent starting point? Even if it might be different from now, what was it at the jump?
Well, so it was actually, strangely enough, like a kind of a film festival Cinderella story that caused hundreds of beavers. So Mike and Rylan are the director-actor duo. They both direct, they both act, they're just both really talented. They had a film called Lake Michigan Monster at the 2018 Milwaukee Film Festival. And it was a B movie, Lake Michigan Monster, right? That's like B movie monster horror. And I'm like, and a friend of mine was like, you got to go check this out. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to check it out. This sounds really, really, really stupid. And then I went. And the audience was just like in stitches laughing. It was so funny. It was so intelligent. It had this like veneer of like B-movie, but underneath was like some real cinephile, like really good filmmaking. It was rough around the edges. They made it for like $7,000. But I was like, holy kittens, you know? And then I got really drunk with them at Landmark Lanes, and then I agreed to produce their movie. Yeah, so I put them in touch with my producing partner, who was in LA at the time, and 4 years later we have the movie. And so I don't know how strategic or planned this is, but I think here's how they kind of worked. Like the way that Lake Michigan Monster feels and looks is also kind of the way that Hundreds of Beavers feels and looks. And so these guys are they're starting a brand of sorts. They've got like a vibe, they've got a thing, and most importantly, that thing is kind of unlike anything else anyone else is making. It's black and white, it's mostly silent, it's comedy, it's physical, it's unlike anything you've ever seen, which actually turns out pretty good strategy in hindsight, right? So they had already had a lot of success with Lake Michigan Monster, not at the huge festivals, but at the smaller one, and it built a lot of buzz of like, oh my, same thing as what happened to me, right? I can't believe this movie. And so it was really self-evident that obviously for the second feature, we would just follow the sort of path of buzz they had built. And in the 4 years between Lake Michigan Monster, which also it was picked up by Arrow Films in the UK, put out on Blu-ray, so it was like generating a following. Film festival programmers were talking about it. So then when the next movie came out, it was like no-brainer, right? And then it got into the next tier of film festivals. So yeah, if our film festival strategy is also kind of just our strategy as like a little group, which is make a movie that's unlike anything anyone's ever seen, hype the crap out of it shamelessly, which is really hard for me because I have like a lot of shame. Thanks, Catholic school. But like, we're just like P.T. Barnuming this stuff without abusing animals. It's like, well, actually, no, a lot of animals are abused in our film. It is about hunting beavers. All the beavers in the movie, by the way, are full-size human mascots, like what you would see at like a Badgers game. So it's not actual animals.
No real animals were injured in the filming of this film.
Very true. So yeah, I don't know if that's kind of a rambly answer, but that's sort of the origin story of our thing.
Oh, I'm glad you kind of said that because I think what kind of came out, which like really beautifully and organically, that I would love to kind of hammer home this point of like finding your audience. First and foremost, should be a part of whatever strategy you might have, as loose or as tight or as detailed or as not, should always be a part of your film. And I wish I could remember the filmmaker who posted this. I was on the Very Toxic Film Twitter one day, and I was scrolling through, and not to play inside baseball, but it's a very toxic place. But one point that was being made there was this filmmaker who I believe was just nominated maybe for a Spirit Award or something very, very glamorous. And they didn't get started in your traditional film festival circuits. They did not go out and be like, I must get into Sundance. I must get into South by. I must get into da-da-da-da-da-da. There's a lot of those festivals, and I think somewhere that I know where I very much come from philosophically speaking, and I know that very much is in place here at Milwaukee Film within the programming team, is that this very complicated relationship that unfortunately we continue to reinforce with our understanding of the word prestige and kind of where that falls in. And you must have these things in order to be this. It's not an if this, then that. And it just isn't. And it really comes down to finding your audience at those festivals, and more often than not, it is going to be your regional film festivals that will be the space that really where you want to get your film started. And so I think kind of what has been, and if I am paraphrasing incorrectly, and I am absolutely kind of taking over this moment, I want to make it very clear that it is all about, it doesn't matter necessarily the exact name and brand of the festival that you premiere at or that you play at. It's about whether or not they're going to help bring audiences to your film, because you know, even if it's a small crowd, they can guarantee you a mighty crowd. And that ultimately is what's going to give that film and you as the filmmaker that sometimes that push, that just that first like tap, that's going to send you down this trajectory that's going to go a million miles a minute, as all of you are now experiencing, right? So kind of with that said, at what point within the process of your film did your film festival strategy actually become like, oh, this is our film festival strategy, or this is just my strategy, period? A lot of things kind of come into play, right? You don't realize you're kind of creating a strategy. So at what point did you become acutely aware of it, and did anything change in that point?
Okay, so Kurt, I think you've mentioned a team. You've mentioned a team, so I have a team as well. And the team gets input and has thoughts and voices, and we collaborate together. And so it definitely, for our team, was important to have one of these film festival premieres that you just spoke of, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think sometimes you, as a filmmaker, can chase Sundance and you can chase South by. You're chasing all of these things, but what I learned by premiering at South by was that it made so much sense for our film.
Yeah.
I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. My aunt, through the Great Migration, left Texas to California. You know, I was able to bring out a bunch of family. Like when I say that first screening, like half the audience was family. They came out in a bus full of black Barbie t-shirts. So I think speaking to starting the film festival circuit off in that strategy was just, I feel like kismet, in the sense of it made sense for us to premiere at South by. And then from there, once we landed our premiere festival, we then started to collaborate with the Film Collaborative.
Yay!
And the Film Collaborative is a dear, dear organization, because I think you both know that submitting to film festivals and keeping up with all the different things, getting the DCP, getting the press kit, getting all the things is...
You almost need your own team of film festival strategy people.
Yes, it's so much work. And if you're on the road with it and you're trying to keep up with scheduling things, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so the Film Collaborative, they take on that for the filmmaker. And they basically go out and say, if the film festivals aren't coming to them, then they're like, hey, do you want to check this out and program it in your film festival? And so through that process, you know, I just had them send me a sheet because I couldn't keep up. I was like, I don't know. People are asking, and I have, like, I've seen the emails come through, but I just need just a list.
Right.
Yes. And so I think through that process and working with the Film Collaborative, a heavy burden has been lifted off of our shoulders as the filmmakers, and we can now focus on the next step, distribution.
Yes.
And through that process, I think film strategy is important. I know for our film, we've opted out of a lot of the virtual screenings. Yeah, so it's something that I never even thought about, because of course as a filmmaker, I'm like, I want everybody to see the film, opt into everything, go to all the festivals, you know, and the sales agent and everyone's like, yeah, no.
Yep.
Only a couple of images, only this, you know, keep it buttoned up until we get, you know. And so these are all things that I wasn't aware of at the beginning, starting this process. So there are a lot of different things to take into account when you're thinking in terms of your festival strategy. And also, since you spoke to your film being specific to a certain community, and our audience, you know, intentionally, you know, I'm like, Black women, Black girls, this is for us, by us, let's do this. We just got programmed, you know, in ABFF. And so also just thinking in terms of what that is going to look like. Like, I feel like, oh, we're about to like do this up like South by at ABFF, because now that's the American Black Film Festival in Miami, mid-June, June 14th through the 18th. And so I think also thinking in terms of strategy when it comes to premiering for the first time in a festival that is, you know, the primary kind of like audience base for
Absolutely.
the film. It's almost like the Fanta for your film, yeah.
And so, and to kind of stick with you for a second, just to have a follow up on that, just to make it clear for the audience, for Film Collaborative, they are not necessarily a distributor. They're not distribution, right? So at what point, they're kind of like the in-between and kind of help facilitate, right? They are a facilitator. They are I don't know what the other word would be, but at what point did they come into the journey for you? And like, what would you say to filmmakers out here? Like, do you just call up Film Collaborative and say, hey, I want to work with you? Or how did that look like for you and Black Barbie?
For our EP, Camilla Hall has a company called Lady and Bird, and they have a documentary that's screening here as well, Subject. They introduced us to the Film Collaborative. Like, we had a dinner, and they were telling, and me and producer Aaliyah Williams, we were like, yes, please, and thank you very much. Please do that. Because like I said, the festival, it's a beast in and of itself. And so basically we had a meeting with them, and through that connection that Camilla Hall set up, and we had a meeting with them, and they were like, well, once you land your premiere screening, we'll come back and we'll see what we can do for the film. So we landed our premiere screening. Jeffrey was in Greece, and he was like, all I could hear about was your film at South by. Yeah, let's get this going. And so that's how we got connected.
Awesome. Thank you for adding that on for us.
What was the question again? Okay.
When you're like, oh shit, I'm actually working on strategy, as opposed to like, oh, this would be a good idea. Let's grab this one. Like me, I like to grab all the things and go, none of this is going to be relevant.
It's been a long 4 days
It's okay,
so far.
I got you.
So, okay. I think it's different for short films because a lot of filmmakers, when they're making a short film and they go to festivals, it's rare that a short film gets distribution. As opposed to like a feature, right? Where a feature films, in a way, the goal is get as many people to see it, garner an audience, and then pray for distribution, right? Where I think for shorts, especially documentary shorts, I think what tends to happen is they show at festivals, they win a couple of awards, if they win anything at all, and then afterwards, they're just like, oh, okay, I'll just put this on Vimeo or YouTube. And then I guess that just becomes a part of the legacy of said filmmaker until they get to their feature. So like short films in a way at festivals work as like this kind of, here's my portfolio on why you all should trust me to make a feature film, as opposed to like it honestly honoring what a short film is holistically. So like shorts festival strategy is very different in a way because, you know, I guess it could be more fun too, because you wonder like, oh, like, I don't have to really worry about distribution, so I can, you know, go anywhere. But the thing to keep in mind is with a lot of festivals is that shorts programs, as opposed to features, guess what? Features can show on their own. Shorts programs have to be lumped into another program. Like a short has to be lumped into a program of films. So no matter if your film may be amazing, if the festival does not have a program that the film can fit in, it doesn't matter. I've gotten many of rejections that's basically just like, the film is great, we don't have a program for it. Like, we don't have anywhere to put the film. That's not a test of like, that's not saying that your film is not good. That's not a testament of what it isn't and what it is. It is, and I'm a programmer now for Milwaukee Film, and it is hard because you get all these films that are just like, oh, this is amazing, but this year my focus is on this specific topic. So a lot of short films have to do many things at once. So your film has to be about many things at once so that it hopefully could like fit into a program. But I think my strategy is, and this is something we learned with my previous short films. My previous short film is called The Heartland, and it was a visual love letter to Milwaukee. We shot it in a very lyrical style, very poetic. It did killer in regional festivals. It did really well regionally because it made sense. People are familiar with Milwaukee who are living in the Midwest, right? But we didn't do well on the coasts. We didn't do well in the South because that, again, like, I'm telling them, oh, there's this film about Milwaukee, and Atlanta is just like, this is cute. This is a great film. We can't program this, right?
But why here?
But why here, right? But a place like Milwaukee Film will be like, of course, or like a place like Minnesota or Chicago, they're gonna be like, of course, right? So shorts is really hard, especially with our short too, because again, ours is still rooted to a location. Ours is still based like our environment is Milwaukee, but the difference is now we can say, oh, but it tackles gun violence and it tackles music and it tackles healing and it tackles like all these other topics that in an odd way you would just hope a festival has like a program centered around like those things. So that makes the strategy for us a little bit different. And with us also going on a festival circuit, a part of a collection, it makes it also hard because again, there's a collection of just Midwestern shorts. So like, of course, we're gonna get into like a Cleveland and a Milwaukee because these are just Midwestern shorts from a whole bunch of different Midwestern cities. But as a collection, I've realized it is hard to sell all of our films as a collection, where some festivals I've seen have chosen like, oh, we'll take 3 out of the collection as opposed to all 8, based on subject matter and topic.
For sure.
So like 2, and I love to shout them out, but we have 2 films that focus on indigenous communities, right? Mm-hmm. They had this killer premiere in, I don't know where they were, New Zealand. They had they had their world premiere in New Zealand at like the Indigenous like International Film Festival.
Wow.
And like that's amazing. I'm so proud of them. But again, like they may have sent all of our films, but it only makes sense for those 2 to be chosen.
Sure.
So shorts have to navigate differently, and that's something that. So then I guess the rejections don't feel as bad because you're just like, oh, like you probably just can't find a place for me.
Also, pro tip, as a filmmaker, when you are going on your festival strategy and you are looking for audiences for your film, your rejection rate significantly decreases if you are very intentional about the film festivals you submit your work to.
Yeah.
And I think, and not to paraphrase what you're saying, so correct me if I'm wrong here, Marquise, I think a huge part, specifically in the short form, one of the top things that I think are most important when you start your festival strategy is that right there, is doing your research.
You gotta know.
Finding those audiences. Is there an ensemble that is doing this in another city that may not be in the Midwest, and could there be a connection? Or is there there are these things that you can tier, but that is definitely one of them, is looking into the cities and doing research. It is a lot of work, so we are clear. Film festival strategy is ongoing. It never ends, and it should never end.
No.
It's constantly changing, constantly morphing, and changing into all these different forms and formats, and depending on new information. A pandemic, for example, kind of blows up everything, but then also some really neat things can kind of surface from that, which I think Kurt will also probably hit on.
Yeah, and to like piggyback off what my friend also said here about like sometimes feature films have to be hush-hush, with their things. It's an inverse for the short. I need everyone to see a flyer. I need everyone to see a poster. I need everyone to see a still. I need so our social media game has to be like on it.
Active.
But I'm in a unique position because we have been promised distribution prior to even starting our festival circuit, which does not happen to short films often. So I am very privileged in that sense to where I could have said, you know what, Firelight, I actually don't want to go to any festivals at all, and PBS still would have played it, right? That's a very unique position to be in. So then I think our festival strategy has become way more community-oriented. So that's why our festival premiere was at Hayti, a heritage community festival that is centered in a very black part of Durham, North Carolina. That was our world premiere as opposed to somewhere else because it meant more community-wise for them to see it as opposed to like wanting those bigger festivals. Did we apply? Yes. But again, it's about programming and things of that nature. So I'm exhausted. Like I said, it's a lot.
And just so you know, too, there are film festivals, like when it comes to rejections, I want to put in another note. I don't want it to be too discouraging. So I just recently, in the last festival I worked for, we received over 10,000 submissions, and we programmed just right around 250. And then about 20 of those were what we called our marquee films. They did not come from submissions. So just to kind of put it in mind, I will not repeat what an individual at that organization used to frame that as, because I find it intensely problematic because it's about the numbers and the math and just so you know, the numbers the maths, and it doesn't look good, right? And it can feel really bad, and it's very easy to internalize that. My biggest recommendation, don't. Full stop. There's nothing else to say, but just don't.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, as I'm listening, I'm so impressed by these two, because like they made such personal, like, important projects, and they can somehow, you can both do that, but then have this sort of like egoless sort of look at like, hey, well, you know, it's not going to program there, and that makes sense. Like, you're not getting heartbroken, and like that is so crucial. If you just do one thing as a filmmaker, and when you have your movie, like she just said, the numbers. Those are the numbers out there, guys. Like, your movie is most likely not going to get programmed unless you. Strategy is all about choice, right? You can't go everywhere. You can't do everything. I know you want it. I want it too. I want it, but you have to make some decisions about who is your movie for and what is it. And I mean, I think the really savvy ones, even a little bit in development, you know, when you're thinking about your movie and what it's going to be, how are you making it? How are you marketing it? How are you thinking about it so that it has that path? It's wild out there right now. Technology has completely disrupted our industry. No one knows anything. No one knows anything. If somebody comes to you and says, I know exactly how to get your movie programmed, or I know how to get you this, or I know how to get your article in Variety, they are lying. No one knows anything. We're all inventing it. Yeah, we're all inventing it as we go. And I know for our movie, we're really, really careful. We have so many people coming and trying to be agents or sales reps or like all that stuff. And I'm just kind of doing it, even though I don't have the experience. But the thing you learn as you get older is you start out by thinking like, I know everything, right? You start out, you're like, I know everything. And then you hit some huge roadblock in life, and you're like, I don't know anything. But then you come to this moment of wisdom, and you realize, wait a second. No one knows anything. No one knows anything. And I'll be honest, like that's kind of what I found on this is like it's so important to just talk to other filmmakers. I guarantee you after this panel, the three of us are going to trade detailed notes. Yes. I hope so. Because like in order to have a good festival strategy, you need information. So getting these guys covered most of the smart stuff already. So I'll just say like get out there, talk to people, call people up. I've talked to people I've never met. I just emailed them and said, hey, heard your movie did this. People love hearing that. People don't get reached out to as much as you think they do. So reach out to people that you admire and be like, how did you do this? And believe me, they will tell you everything. People are not as guarded. You know, we're maybe a little guarded because we have a camera pointed at us, but after the thing, just ask us and we'll tell you everything we know, and you tell us everything you know, and maybe we can all figure this out together.
Such a great point. Thank you, Kurt. So I think kind of one of the things I want to, because again, we could go, I wish I would, again, another panel I wish I would have scheduled for 2 hours, maybe selfishly, but like I love this stuff. I think kind of one of the things that I want to kind of touch on is what you said about reaching out to people. When you're saying kind of do your research, saying, hey, I love that your film did this. Just also another pro tip, festivals that you reach out to, address your cover letter. Yes, I said cover letter. Yes, write a cover letter, a very specific one, branded to the festival that you are submitting to, and address it to the actual programmers by name. Just past experience, I worked at a festival where we had an all-female programming team. 2/3 of us were women of color, 2/3 of us were queer. Dear male executive director of the film festival, now I'm going to tell you, is that information easy to find? Absolutely. When you do a Google search, it was actually the second hit on Google. I recommend taking, at minimum, if you do nothing else, take 5 minutes, look at the festival before you submit. Know who you are sending it to. If you are sending it to Milwaukee Film, you would likely address it to Kara, Kirsten, Abby, Jack, Marquise, whomever the programmers. It's all listed on our website. This information is available. What that tells the programmer when they're going through thousands and thousands and thousands of films, how the hell does someone go in and say 10,000 films? Where the hell do I start? Well, they're going to look at stuff like that. What is making this stand out from the other 9,999 films? Well, they addressed it to me, and then they put in a Roll Tide because they knew that I graduated from the University of Alabama. Yeah, I'm going to watch your film. It's the little things like that.
Yeah, I like, let's get really tactical for a second. That's exactly what we did. So we had a spreadsheet of every festival that we felt was a good fit for us. We had the emails of the programmers. We looked up things about the programmers. We sent a message and somehow positioned our movie to them.
It's okay to stalk in that way.
100%.
As long as it stops there.
Yeah, totally. as we're going along, if we get into one festival, guess what we do? Or if we have pictures from a festival, we email those festival directors that we haven't got in yet. And we're like, hey, check it out. Atlanta was hopping. Wisconsin Film Festival was crazy. We had 400 people there. It was amazing. Somebody tackled a beaver. Like we'll then send that to like the really big ones we're still waiting to hear from. And just treat them like, you guys are programmers. You're people. You love movies. You know? It really, that's really helped us a lot. So I just wanted to build on that. Sorry.
Absolutely. That is everything. And I guess kind of in that note, what is like, if you could pick one thing of like your entire journey thus far up until this point, is there one thing that really stands out to you? And while I'm doing this, think of your questions if anybody would like to ask our amazing panelists a question. What was the one thing that you're like, if I had only known this? If someone had only told me that. And it could be something so little. It could be something really massive. It can be very simple. I know for me, I'm sure there are filmmakers that, man, I really wish I would have read those instructions correctly and left a synopsis of my film before I submitted. That's a good one.
I wish I would have known that how much money I would waste on festivals. I say that because I think that a lot of filmmakers don't utilize the fact that you could get free like waivers for festivals,
yes,
so that you don't have to pay for festivals, right? I spent way too much money on these festivals, and then like to not get in, I don't get that money back. Like that is crazy to me. Like,
and again, that's why that important part of researching your festivals, being strategic about who you submit to and how you're paying your fees.
So I think that's definitely one thing is like funding, but I think another thing is like this too is like I realized like those large festivals, speaking to like, you know, like those larger festivals with very particular programs. You know, it was funny. This is no shade, but there's this like really large festival. We probably could already guess which one I'm talking about. That I was getting ready. I was excited to apply to. Like Firelight had got me an in with the programmer, and like that was helpful too, because I didn't have that in until then. And we didn't get in, but then they like released their slate, and it's like all of these films that are from like these studios and from like Sony and like all these like, and like I don't know, like it's just like famous people that already have had like Emmy winners and like Oscar winners.
I think there's a lot to be said there and what the programming vision is for that
exactly.
particular
So
institution.
like what got me was I was just like, oh, this was never for me to begin with, or this space was never for me to begin with, because I do appreciate the fact that regional festivals are interested in new emerging filmmakers, but like I think a lot of larger festivals now, what I find as a programmer is that they are just choosing films that have already been bought into the festival in a way where it's just like, oh well, those are interested in theatrical releases from bigger studios, and a lot of those sales agents from bigger studios are just coming to buy those movies, or just I realized that it was never about me and my filmmaking and my aptitude as a filmmaker, but rather it's those larger festivals are just to sell something. It's all about capital. And I think I was like, oh, I had this like floaty idea that film festivals were for the cinephiles, but it's not. The regional ones are. Like, I think that's why folks are super surprised when they come to Milwaukee, because then they'll go to their screening and be like, where did all these people come from? And why do they care so much?
Our
and it's
audience
just like,
loves film.
Our audience loves films. And that's what I've realized, where something like those larger festivals, those audiences are looking to buy what could work for their company or what. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh, this has nothing to do with me, and I'm actually would be okay if I never did that route, based on that information. Right. And plus, it's really hard to distribute a doc anyways in a way where you feel like it's useful. They send a lot of docs to streaming anyways, which I'm just like, I want my shit in theaters. Like I don't like, why not? You know what I mean? So like, what other ways could I do that as opposed to like this current system?
Right. And something I wanted to touch on too, and again, to be clear, I am not on the programming team at Milwaukee Film. I am not a programmer for Milwaukee Film. I am, however, I'm the programming director for an LGBTQ film festival in Tampa, Florida. And I'm putting that hat on, okay? Took off my Milwaukee Film hat, I've got on my Tampa hat, so we're clear. The best thing you can do, and it never hurts, if you want to get in, if you want to submit to a film festival and you do not have the money, ask. Ask for a waiver. Email, ask, personalize it. What is the worst thing that's going to happen? Spoiler alert, they say no. Okay. Then that will help you prioritize what few pennies you might have left from couch cushion change to submit to festivals. Okay, maybe I prioritize this one and I will pay for this fee. Because also, to be clear, those screening fees go immediately back into your pocket in many ways. Even if you may not get programmed, please know that the festivals, if you are looking at the correct festivals like Milwaukee Film, all of that money goes immediately back to support the artists. Full stop. So keep that in mind. Paying the fees are worth it for a lot of film festivals. Do your research and prioritize and strategize around which ones you can pay for based on just simply asking, can I have a waiver? Also, put it in as a line item on your budget in pre-production. Okay, Milwaukee Film hat back on. What is one thing you wish you would have known or somebody would have told you?
I've been thinking about this, and if you haven't seen the film, we're screening a little bit later today. I should know the time right off the top. Okay, great, awesome. 5:45. I was like 4:45.
At the Orient, or at Times?
5:45.
Avalon.
At the Avalon. You will learn that, it took about 10 years to, I didn't break it down like this, so you're getting insider information. 10 years to actually raise the funding, to get the funding for the project. And then once we had the funding, it took us 2 years almost to the date, like April 2021, and then we premiered in March 2023. So it was the funding. And I think I was so excited to be at the part where, excited and emotional, to actually have the film done. And for me, it's a labor of love. It's my heart and my baby. And for the entities that be, it's a product. And so I think having it done, I didn't think that I would be up against some of the same barriers and obstacles that I encountered during the fundraising process. But soon thereafter, here came those barriers, some of the same barriers, and I had to recalibrate and go back into the, development fundraising mode of things. And so I wish that I would have had a little bit more time to revel, I guess, and instead of having to tap back into the patience and the persistence and the tenacity and as someone told me, I got the stick to itness. I think that's what he said. Stick to itness. So I'm back on that path, and so I wish I would have known just a little that it's a cycle. You'll have to come back to it. At least I had to come back to it. I don't know if that's everybody's journey. Yes.
Yeah, it's like picture lock is in the middle of the journey. You're like, picture lock, I'm done. Woohoo, I got my movie. It's like, you're right. Dude, you're like right in the middle of it, I think the one thing, I've learned this a few times over, and I'm not even close to the same person, or I'm not close to the first person to say something like this, but it's so true that this vision that we had of what a film festival is, of it's the thing, and if I get into Sundance, my ticket is punched, I'm good. Yeah. So not true. Yeah. Even if by the minuscule miracle that you get into Sundance, it still isn't. Look at what was picked up this year. Nothing was picked up. So it's really rough out there, guys. There's a glut of supply that came after the pandemic, and the streamers pumped billions of dollars into this. There are so many films out there. You are not going to make your money back. If that matters to you, it matters to us. We have investors. You're not going to make your money back through a sale at a film festival. Period. Full stop. You're not. And so what you need to do is think about how is my movie like beyond that? What is it beyond that? It's not just the film, and then it's a product that I have, and I put it in the trade show that is Sundance, which is essentially what it is, right? And then it's going to get bought, and it's over. And I wish somebody would have just told me that, because then from the very beginning, when you're fundraising, you've got your movie for your budget, or your budget for your movie. Take half of that budget, and then tack it on for marketing and travel and promotions and sales agents and all that stuff. It's you have to build. I use the word brand because I'm in marketing, so but use whatever word you want, right? You're out there creating culture. That's what your job. You're not making a movie. You're creating culture, and part of creating culture is the festivals, the talking, the social media, the conversation around the movie is the product, just as much as the movie is the product. And if you think about it that way, you might be surprised at the new ideas you have about how you get your film distributed, because it'll go way beyond this idea of get it in a festival and then some magical person will come and take care of the rest. You're making culture, so be inventive with how you make culture. Be inventive with how you get your film out there, just as you were inventive when you made the movie, and you'll be good.
Did you get all that, Tom? That was an excellent soundbite. Thanks, Kurt. Oh, look at this guy. Do we have any questions before I keep monopolizing? Because I have 8 million more, and I know that we don't have time for 8 million more, but we have time for a nightcap. Anybody? Nightcap?
So you mentioned Film Collaborative, and did you connect with them prior to making your film or after it was made?
After, I had no idea they even existed.
That's true.
Just landed on my radar.
Can you tell me a little more what they can do for a project?
So as far as the month and a half or so that we've been working together, they have any inbound emails that I've gotten saying, hey, we want a screener, we want this, I just forward to them. And then they go through the rest of the process. So they have a screener, they can track how many people watch it, they do all of the stuff that we would be doing as filmmakers. And then also they go out to, they're at different film festivals, and at those film festivals are other programmers, and they're like, hey, on our slate we have X, Y, and Z. We think it'd be great for your film festival. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, send us the link. And so it's that sort of thing.
And so from the programmer side of it, that's exactly what happened. I was at Frameline, the LGBTQ film festival in San Francisco this summer, and Jeffrey's like, fresh blood, come here. And I was like, yes, sir. This is the first LGBTQ film festival. As a queer programmer, it's my first LGBTQ film festival. I've always been in the Southern regional circuit. And now I'm in the Midwest, but I am programming for this festival, and I love them. I love this group. I love that community so very much, near and dear to my heart. I have my own community in Tampa. But Jeffrey Winters, the gentleman who runs it, and said, come here, you're new? And I said, yes, sir. He's like, I have a bunch of films that I think would be really great for Tampa. We've played films at Tampa International for years. Let's go get dinner. And I said, okay, great, let's do that. And Jeffrey Winter and I went to dinner, and for 3 hours, he went through all of the films that he felt would be best for Tampa. And then also gave me, here are these other films that I have that you might be interested in that would fit an LGBTQ slate. But he prioritized them, and it really is helpful for programmers because there are so many films. Oh my God. It's so overwhelming, right? And so to know that you are working with someone who is just as passionate about the films that you will eventually be just as passionate about is just, to me, is one of the best models for a company and organization to help filmmakers with this portion of the process.
Yes, it's almost like pulling a needle out of a haystack. It's like, here's this needle you should be looking at in the haystack of needles.
And I will say, my program for Tampa last year was close to 50% films from Film Collaborative because of that relationship. And they were all very, very different films. But because of that, and him getting to know me as a human, and then as a programmer, and then already having the context for the community that I'm serving, is just, that's how that's how beautiful that relationship can be and should be, in my opinion.
Yes, and we just had dinner with him, and he was going through all the different things, and I was like, delightful. What about New York premiere? What about
Yeah.
London premiere? What about, also Brazil, Trinidad? Great.
It's very, very helpful. Bree, did you have a question, hon? I didn't mean to call you out. I know you raised your hand.
So, this is for all of you. But is there a milestone or goal that your films have yet to achieve that you're looking forward to? And I'm thinking in terms of like maybe community or like audience response or even like submissions or acceptances. Like, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I think actually, I will say my milestone actually happened yesterday, which is crazy. When we started my first 2 short films, both had virtual film festivals, like just festival circuits. So I never saw my work in like a theater, let alone like a theater in my city. So like yesterday was like mind blowing to be at the Oriental, where I work, but also like where I go to watch movies, where I program films, all of that. It was like super mind blowing, and I'm still trying to be present with it, to see a packed house of people from my city who just are choosing to watch my stuff, like, and engage with it. And that blew my mind. And that, I think that was a milestone that I wanted. Like, I don't care wherever else we may screen, like, I want to see my work at the Oriental. And like, that was super monumental for me because my other short films, which also shown at Milwaukee Film, didn't get the chance to do so. And I will say Milwaukee Film, I love them to death because like during my Heartland run, they even asked, like last year's festival, they even asked like, if you want, we could, show the Heartland because you didn't get that opportunity. And I was just like, no, it's fine. Yeah, like they were, and that was before I was a programmer, so like they were really sweet in wanting to give people that experience. And also, it's a really beautiful thing because year round, Milwaukee Film is dedicated to like filmmakers that are not on a festival circuit, like showing their work. Like one of my good friends, for his birthday, he's working on a comic series, right? He was able to show some of that work at the Oriental. So it was just a really beautiful milestone that I'm just like, I'm good. Like, if I was to say I don't want to be a filmmaker ever again, which I don't think I'm able to do anymore, like it's not my choice. But if I ever was to say I don't want to do this again, like I'd be okay with like I shown at the Oriental in the Abley Theater at that, like the big theater. I'm good for the rest of my life. So that was a milestone that happened just yesterday.
That's amazing, man. Congrats. All of it. I mean, like so I'm up here on a panel suddenly somehow because she asked me like two days ago. But like I've been trying this shit for like 15 years. I've never gotten into a major film festival. Never been to South by. Never been to Toronto. Never been to all these things on the horizon. I got accepted to a Werner Herzog workshop 2 years ago and made a short film with Werner Herzog, and it didn't even get into my hometown festival. Like, I just want to, like, this is, like, I've been working at this for so long, and so many of my friends have, and I know so many filmmakers who have been doing it, and just not having success. So to be in a room with, like, 1,000 people watching a movie that, like, I helped make or helped bring to life, even though I wasn't the director or the auteur, it's still very much, like, it's I don't know, every single day I wake up, I can't, like right now on next week Friday, big party at the Oriental Theater and at Von Trier. Lots of beavers will be there. Screening is at 9:30. It is a midnighty kind of movie, so come on out, stay up late.
It will be so much fun, I assure you.
But just like that validation of like, okay, I know that I talk a big talk about not having ego, but like just to see something that I had some kind of creative hand in, getting out there and just like connecting to people. Oh my God, every part of it. I'm looking forward. We're going to do a theatrical run in the fall where my two other producers are going to CinemaCon in Las Vegas and they're just shaking hands with theater owners and trying to make deals so that we can put this movie by ourselves without a distributor in as many theaters as possible. That's going to be a lot of fun. So I don't know. The whole ride is just amazing.
I think I'm still kind of there, but at the premiere, like I said, so much family. My aunt who's in the film, and then I'm kind of like a cheese ball, in the sense of, I have a black Barbie now. I have lots of Barbies now. And once you see the film, you'll understand why that is really interesting and fascinating. But I have a lot of Barbies, and I was like, I want to bring Black Barbie to the premiere. And so, like, I bought a case, and it came with, like, little lights, and, like, and Black Barbie, like, walked the red carpet, and, like... And she came to every screening. It was just cheese. I mean, it's like the Beavers.
That's awesome.
No, I didn't bring her. I was like, do I want to bring her? I mean, she's a lot of work. I would, if I would have brought her, she would be here now, and she goes everywhere with me, and it's too cold here. It was nice and warm in Austin, and so I think she might come out on the circuit every now and then. But she's a busy woman. She's chilling in my apartment right now. But no, I think it was just so. I don't even have words to describe that feeling after 12 years. A 12-year journey. I'm always like, I was a young woman when I started this project. Oh my God. To have the opportunity to have my aunt and my mom and my sister and my niece and Black Barbie and all the people that just came out. There's pictures. If you're interested in seeing Black Barbie on the red carpet.
Of course we are.
But that's a big milestone, and I just went for all the cheese that I could go for at that time.
But also, she deserved her moment on the red carpet.
She did.
Facts are facts.
Put
She
a spotlight
deserved her
on
moment.
Black Barbie. It's her time to shine before
Absolutely.
July 21st. Which premiere? Oh, you mean July 21st? Oh, you just gave me an idea.
Whoa, there's a whole look. Two of you also need to talk after this. All right, guys, I know it's 3:10. We went a little over, and I'm sure maybe some of you might still have some questions, so I do want to encourage you, as long as our panelists do not have to rush off to their screening to another location, please feel free to come up and ask them questions. Again, continue to keep drinking and eating from our lovely folks here at Pomona Cider. Again, thank you so much for our first amazing Sunday here. Like I said, to remind you, we will be back at Pomona Cider next Sunday, and next Saturday we'll be back at the East Library. So thank you all so much again for coming. I'm Bridget, Artist Services Manager with Milwaukee Film, and I hope you continue to enjoy your festival.